Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Toku Portal podcast for Mashin Sentai Kiramager. I am Vashi V, and joining me today is
Right. Welcome to episode 22. Uh,
an
so,
episode I thought I had already watched because of how it starts.
yeah, it opens up with like the same shark as last week's episode.
I'm like,
Uh,
wait a minute, I watched this already. Damn it!
in a weird recap execution.
That is an understatement of the recap. Gotten better episode recaps than the Arrowverse, and those are bad.
So Mabushina is in a hospital and Takamichi is visiting her, and it has now become aware to me that you can't tell when Mabushina's eyes are closed, or if they close
Yeah,
at all.
like that was one of those things. Like we never cared to know because it was never relevant.
We were just focused on the fact that her eyes are the same exact as the
So,
rest of her head.
right. Like we're used to, the characters with masks for heads. Facial
The
features don't
suit
change.
designs, they're just weird. And so you
Right.
don't really expect like Garuza to blink at all because it's just a mask.
Right.
But when you
And
have
when you have a character who literally has a curse on their eyeball,
and they're in
blinking becomes relevant.
yeah, when there's a mark on their eye, an unnatural one, and they're in a hospital in a position that implies they're like probably asleep because they're in pain.
And the mark is still visible. It's like, are you sleeping with your eyes open? How is this working? And it becomes way more evident that we never know whether or not that her character's eyes are open or not.
Because usually, if there's a monster sleeping, they'll like not show you the eyes.
Right. And they'll, or they'll go extra to like the animated bubble or just, the snoring sounds. They usually do something. This
Right, like
literally
even if
did.
the eyes are there, they'll have the monster snoring and be like, okay, this monster is asleep.
Yeah,
But like
here they just did
with
nothing.
Mabushina, we've got more questions than answers.
It's probably going to have a lot more next week.
So, Uh, plan. We need a plan. What's the plan? We have the time stone. All right, let's go back in time and stop the curse from being put on her in the first place. Stop the curse. But then Tommy Tono shuts it down like, no, don't you know how science fiction works? We could just not be born if we mess with the past.
Right. And like it gets to the point where and I kind of mentioned it to you when we were discussing the next episode. You get into paradox. They go
Right.
back and stop the curse, then they have no reason to have gone back in the past. They don't go back to the past. Why does everything smell like purple?
So, Murray recommends, hey, instead of changing the past, why don't you change the future? And he brings out the rusted aqua kirame stone. Uh,
Which apparently smells like ass.
it was brought to Earth under the hopes that maybe Earth technology can do something about the poison. It couldn't.
The king put a lot of faith in our technology.
The king put a lot of faith in an underdeveloped society. Uh,
Jesus Christ. And
I say
here's the
underdeveloped,
part.
but like what we've seen in Crystalia, Earth actually does have some technology they don't.
Right. I mean, we have a fair bit. I mean, most of theirs was, sentient rocks. So, um, the part that confused me is the fact that so many people were in that area, and that thing was just out, but nobody smelled it until he put it on the table.
Well, it's the same with what happens later in the episode. Nobody
Yeah,
smells it
I know.
until it's in
It
front
makes
of them.
it makes no sense.
So, new plan. Go back in time to before uh, the witch was killed, and get a sample so that they can develop an antibody or an antidote. And so they decide, like, well, in order to go back in time, first of all, the stone doesn't just send you anywhere. You have to have memories of the place. So since Mashin Fire was there during the fight with her, he can use his memories to send them back to the time of the battle. And so, like, oh, she was drinking a cup. So they'll steal the cup, which has her, like, saliva on it. I don't know.
I don't know. They loosely explain that in a way that shouldn't work. You're trying to find a cure for the poison.
Are her lips poisonous?
It's like, where does the poison reside? Do you just
Yeah.
get a little
It,
residual one in the saliva, or
it was a poor explanation, but they're going to try and steal the cup she was drinking from. Uh, but,
so this the explanation also leads to another question. Because Crystal can only send you into the basically the past via the memories that happened. How do
well,
they send them back before they show up?
it sent them back to the time period where that Martian Fire remembered of, like, we were on the planet heading towards the battle. And so they headed in the general vicinity of that area.
It was just the way it was worded threw me off because they're
Right.
like, yeah, we're now here before we showed up.
They were headed, well, because this they were already on the in the area. They were just, not put exactly where they would be so they don't run into themselves, kind of thing.
Like it makes sense. Again, just poor wording because the way he worded it made it seem like they were still on the way to the planet.
No, I don't think so. I think they're on the planet just hiking.
I put way too much thought into a show that doesn't require thinking.
You put way too much thought into a show that refuses to explain anything.
That too.
So,
Except for the fact of explain. The only thing the show is explained is the fact it's a parody.
so, uh, Takamichi can't go because he's the only one with a working mech right now, and the monster is still out there. Uh, so Juru volunteers to go in his place. But Tamitono doesn't want Juru to go alone, so he volunteers himself and Sina to go with him.
Like this is the point where like people make intelligent decisions.
But then we
Like
go to and actually do it, and then you have to
it's just a
wonder.
guy. Yeah, because you get there and it's like you guys are just idiots.
So, so Shigeru and Asuna, not Asuna, Sayo, help Takamichi defend the city by fighting against Garuza, and then eventually a mech fight. But we'll get to that later. Let's focus on what happens in the past.
Ah.
Uh,
To be
so,
fair, part of this is the best part of this episode, in my opinion.
so they see there's some bachats nearby, which is what the grunts are called. And the portal will only remain open for 20 minutes. So they have to steal the cup in that time. Uh, they need to stall, like, the king and group from getting to her so they don't bump into each other. And it's like, wait, what? Why are
Yeah, it's
why is
yeah, it's
there
one of those
another red
why.
stone? Um, so Yellow was prepared for this and brought a disguise for him and Sina to distract the king and such while Juru goes for the cup. These poorly made disguises of the grunts. And, like, grunts in these shows don't say words. They don't communicate.
At
But
most, they say like betcha and bachat.
And even in most Sentai, this is how it is.
Right.
But to draw their attention, Tamaito no Sina, in these poorly made disguises, just just start chatting it up to the point where even the queen is just like, "Hey, do they usually talk like that?" And the king is like, "They're probably mutated."
The sad thing is, watching this, the only thing I could think of is great. The hero's plan is to basically pull a Team Rocket,
It's like
poses and all.
this is a stupid plan. So much
Everything about it is
so
dumb.
much could go wrong.
So much should have
The,
gone wrong.
like the king thinks they're the enemy, so he's not holding back. He like legitimately tries to kill them.
I will admit that was a fantastic scene of them running away. And the fact that at no point when they both went, huh?
When they both lifted up their masks, no one noticed. Like, that's another thing. It's like, what if they got caught? Well, how would they talk their way out of that? Everything about this plan was bad.
Entirely.
Uh,
Like, I give Jura credit for his side of it. Made more sense.
Like, okay, I'm gonna try Shigeru's fishing technique to get the cup. And it's not his fault that the witch saw that shit coming and snatched her own cup out of the air.
You would think, because I'm pretty sure at that point is like she kind of knew that the king and them were coming.
Right, and like the way, she catches her cup and then just tosses it aside. Like, the cup didn't matter. Why did you want it? Who are you?
Right. It's like, so her having that attentiveness to be able to do something like that makes sense because she was expecting the king and got a jackass.
And gotta give props for Drew for trying with the whole, like, I'm the waiter here to clear your table.
Like, why the fuck would you even think that would work?
uh,
You're in Jotunheim and you're sparkling, you jackass.
uh,
You were literally the antithesis of existence on that planet.
oh.
But it did lead to the best part of this episode because that whole fight scene was just phenomenally filmed.
Right. And Drew realizing, like, she's too strong. I can't take her on in a fair fight. Uh, and realizing, like, but if I attack her from a distance.
Like, it shows that he's learning better in combat, and also finally gives him a use to use the damn gun he's had for this entire time.
Also, apparently, maybe it's because he's the only one still in high school, but apparently he knows more about how science works than the others.
Yeah, that too. You would think the adults would know a little bit better on that.
They run out of time, and so Masha and Fire pulls Juro out of there, and they all jump back through the wormhole. And Tommy Tone realizes, like, wait, where's the cup? And Juro's like, I didn't get it.
And that's all the explanation we get.
And yeah, they start panicking.
And then it cuts back to the other side.
Yeah, it cuts back to Takamichi's mech fight against the boat. He's at first it's going well, but then the boat starts using strategy, and that's where Takamichi loses the advantage. Because if it was just a test of strength, then he would have won. But no, you're putting strategy into this. Oh man, how am I supposed to counter that?
You have to use your brain for a second.
Really, it's just that the monster was too fast for him.
Right. And the fact that,
but still, like, it came down to a thing of like, what, you can't, like, is strategy not a thing for you?
Like, it was to the point where Sayo actually, had the intelligence and use. Okay, well, this thing's fast. Fuck it. I'm going to use the speed train. King Express. And only reason why she failed on that one is she can't teleport through buildings.
Right, it's like, shoot, he can still get away from me, though, because he can just land shark through solid objects. And
Which
then,
is funny when you which is funny later with how that gets solved.
right, and then Jiro comes in, right, with the Aqua Kirame Stone. And Takumi's just like, oh, so you got the cup? He's like, no.
No.
I got the witch to spit acid at me, though, and I caught some on my sword, and we used that to make an antidote. Because that's how science works.
Yeah.
I still don't understand the cup.
Here's the part of that confuses me. Okay. So they needed through all this, they needed the acid to make the antidote. But the Aqua Stone is covered in the freaking acid. That's why it still smells like ass.
But that stuff had hardened and dried up. It wasn't usable. They needed a fresh sample.
Add water to it. I have a hard time believing that they couldn't have found some way to get a viable sample off the damn stone,
I don't
given
know.
the fact that
Like, if they could have got... I feel like if they could have gotten any of it off of the stone to take a sample from, then they wouldn't have needed the sample. They could have just
right,
taken it off the stone. So...
right, MacGuffin just to plot the episode.
And, yeah, like we were saying before, like, nobody smells the venom on the sword until Juru pulls it out from behind him.
And then flips it over. Because it's fine until he flips it over, then everybody loses their crap.
And then Juru gets, an idea.
How do you beat a land shark boat?
With a land shark train. And this time it's actually a land shark because it's themed after a shark.
To include the doo-doo-doo-doo. It even bends its way through the ground.
So he's able to chase after it, and the stone actually asks Jiro, like, alright, so what do I do? And Jiro's like, well, sharks can detect things through their senses, so I gave you an ability like that. And he hits a button and locates the monster's weak point.
It's engines. It was his friggin' engines. Who would have thought?
But he logged onto it. I assume.
Yeah, but that was one of those moments I'm watching. It's like, wait, nobody else thought to target the engines?
And then the new Aqua Stone train can combine with the other bullet train to make a giant train.
And you know, also stops them from having to pirate another train.
I hope that, like, eventually they do just steal the Dino train onto their
Yeah.
side and combine all three together.
Ah, that'd be great. Like, and that's one of those things, like looking forward with the show that I'm interested to find out how they're going to handle.
Dino Shark train. One arm will be a shark and the other arm will be the dinosaur head.
I feel like we've come close to having that once already.
Probably. I think we've come close, but not quite.
Yeah, we've had the dino, we've had the shark, and we've had the train. We just haven't had all three together through various Sentai.
Okay. So yeah, that's more or less it. Takamichi, from his injuries, wakes up in the hospital and he contacts his brother and he's like, how's Mabushina? And he's like, she's not with us. Because she went to go visit you!
Dude, fucking asshole. Uh,
Like,
that's one of those. That's one of those. The first time I see my brother, I'm punching him in the face because you're a dick.
it's like you don't joke about that. And so
That was just
Mabushina's proud of him for staying to defend the city, which is the thing she yelled at him about last time.
which I give Takamichi credit for his, the whole. I guess owning up. I guess owning up to the whole. Yeah, but I left you.
Slash realizing why she was mad at him and acknowledging it.
Right, but then also doing the whole like, I'm not your hero because I left you, and she goes, no, I'm part of everyone, dumbass.
And then we get our mid-credits scene with the Aqua Kirame Stone. Jiro, am I a shark or a train? A shark train! Don't be snarky! This is one of those moments where I'm legitimately curious what the Japanese dialogue was, that's what TV Nihon decided to translate it as.
I wouldn't be surprised if that's how they did it.
If that was actually what was said.
If that was actually legit. Because to be fair, from what especially with what we've seen of 01, they're real big on puns. And they know what snarky is, and they know what a shark is. It wouldn't be hard for them to come up with a way to do that. Especially given the fact of everything we've seen for 01. Those puns were so bad.
At least someone enjoyed them.
I did fucking enjoy them. As dumb as they were. I mean, I'm pretty sure I didn't enjoy them as much as Fua.
So.
But now we get into the nightmare of the next episode.
Queen Mabayuin is alive? Ah?
It breaks so much continuity if this is legit.
Didn't she die a week after the curse? Isn't that why?
It turned to dust to the point where they have her crown.
Isn't that why Takamichi is looking for the Kanayame stones? Also, the whole plot of the episode is that they don't want to cause her any undue duress, so they don't want her to find out about the war with Jotunheim and what happened to Crystalia.
And then for some reason, Blue has a backpack and a bandana.
No, for some reason, like, everyone else is going to fight, and Tametono is just sitting.
Yeah, there's that too. Hey, that whole trailer, the preview for next week's episode, is just a giant mess.
And, like, they're trying to just... they want to, like, treat the battle against Jotunheim is just a play to try and trick her. And, like, you see Mabushina holding the queen's crown, so it's like, what the fuck is going on? Is her consciousness, like, inside the crown? Is that what they mean?
God, I have no idea.
Everything about this, like, depending on the answer, this breaks so much that we thought we knew about this show.
So, to me, the obvious answer is
this is a huge trick. This is the biggest you're being tricked.
This is to me. This is Garuza and Jotunheim playing some sort of trick. Because the only logical possible explanation again ends with everything smelling like purple. Them going back in time altered the course of history to the where apparently she didn't get cursed, but Mabushina did.
But they legitimately in this episode said, let's not do that. That's a bad idea.
Right. but they also still interfered.
It's
Interference in any way, blah blah blah, time travel butterfly effect. But again, if
so weird.
the only way that this should play out normally is if nobody gets infected, but then at that point they have no reason to go to the past and everything starts smelling like purple.
But
Time travel is dumb. There's not. I haven't seen one Toku show yet who's figured out how time travel actually works enough to actually implement it properly. Except for the end of Kiva. I was fine with that. Only because we got 2 Watarus and 2 Otoyas.
But next week's monster is a safe, and so we do get a good shot of Sayo wearing a stethoscope, like, up to the safe as she's turning the dial.
Like, there's points in the show that are just fantastic.
Get that Ranger a dial fighter.
Like, and I have to admit, one of the things I really enjoy about this show is Sayo. Especially given the last time we saw her as, Little Miss Alan Sama. Like, I liked her in Ghost. It was just, I got tired of hearing that phrase. But she's done she's done a much better job because she's been allowed to actually act beyond be sad. Okay, you can smile, but be sad. And this show has gotten to the point where it's either going to continue to be oddly amazing or go entirely off the rails, but still be amazing and allowed to do it because it's Kiramager.
Yeah, that's what I'm expecting. Like I'm expecting this show to be great, whatever direction they go in. But
right.
I imagine it'll just keep going. It'll just go off the rails.
Just like that damn crazy train. Only this time it's a shark.
So, thanks for joining us today, everybody. We'll be back tomorrow with the start of Kamen Rider Saber. I won't be, but other people will be.
At least me and Zero. Pretty sure Gokai Platinum said he was going to show up too. Maybe Drago.
We'll be back next week for more Kiramager. So thanks for joining. We'll see you next time.
Thank you all for joining. We'll see you tomorrow and back here again next